Good morning, everyone. This is the Geo Scheduling Call today with a Monday surprise edition, given that both Rachel and I were either on vacation or doing some other things. So we are looking forward to the build board and its state. So again, around 45 minutes of scheduling coming right up.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen and I'm prepared this time in that I have everything in the right window. So I thought this time I would just open up the discussion page first to just remind us of where we were last week. Yes, last week. So at the end of last week, we saw that there were 4 epics currently in progress that we were right close to finishing, being automatically choosing the best node, object storage, simplifying the upgrade process, and the replication of design uploads. Mm-hmm. And then we were going to concentrate on replication and validation framework, followed by Geo and GitLab.com, and the promotion, demotion, and failover. So let's see how we've measured up to that over the past week. Okay, let me just refresh this so I know that it's the latest thing. Okay. Oh, hey, there's 8 enclosed. Okay, let's go through those. Mm-hmm. So enable replicating this in object storage. If I'm correct, this was the flag. Yes, remove the feature flag.
Yeah.
Excellent. So that's done.
That's done. So there was one discussion that you may be not aware of. So we decided to release this as a beta feature.
Okay.
Because of some scaling concerns. So part of the sort of generally availability is that this is something that can be applied at any scale. And given that we're not doing this on .com, there was some concern, that we should try this out on a larger scale before removing it. But that's the only thing. I don't really like having things as beta, but I think the concern was valid. So I made a call to do this.
So do you have an issue raised about that?
It's in the discussion for the object storage feature, but I think we need to still make an issue for actually testing this at scale.
Okay, because then we should get that
done.
Yeah, we should get that done. Because I don't want this to be another thing that just hangs around forever and ever.
No, and I completely agree.
I mean, alternatively, we leave it in beta until it's on GitLab.com, and then we use that as the testing ground for it. But I think we make a decision either way, and then.
I think that is I don't know how easy it is to test this at scale, other than on .com. So I think that's a decision to be made, how we want to proceed. But I think it should be recorded as a thing that we need to do, because it shouldn't remain in beta forever. Right? Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll leave that for you to. Well, should I put that in the notes here, actually? Okay, next one, update the documentation for object storage. So this was just the docs.
Yeah.
Update the relevant documentation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That got merged. Thanks to Valerie and for writing this up.
Okay, next one. Add note, updating primary will cause. Okay, add a note in the docs that this might happen. I swear, this foreign data wrapper adds so much complexity.
Yes, we can talk about that regarding the update a bit more as well.
Okay. Okay, next one. Customizable get HTTP clone root URL.
It got done.
Oh, right, it got done. Okay.
Yeah, so it's released, or will be released in 12.4. This is so I had a customer call during the week. And this came up, and I think this is going to make a huge difference for some of our customers, because it essentially means they, have a fully transparent geo configuration option, which is really exciting. So I'm really pleased that this is all done.
So if both of those are all done, can we close this epic?
We can.
Is there any text I should add here, or just hooray, this is done, and close it?
Right. This is an amazing feature. We are so happy closing this epic. Yeah.
Okay, close epic. Brilliant. I'm going to just say that we closed this epic.
Yep. Yeah, I spun this out of the larger automatically choose the best node as discussed last week, because there are other things that need to happen, but this is the thing that we wanted to accomplish. So it's really cool.
Awesome. That is really cool. And it is done. So what is next up on the list? What did we choose?
Actually, no, it's good. Let's continue. So the next thing here is essentially the user research that I still need to do with the customer.
Okay. Right. Explicitly set node name. Oh, okay. This was the documentation only change. Right. Yes, I think this was. Yeah, I asked Zach to take a look at this. And close by merge request. Good stuff. Okay. And it's strange how when it gets closed by a merge request, it doesn't take the review label off.
Maybe that's a note to make, because that should maybe automatically just happen.
Well, yeah. I wonder why it's not doing that. Anyway, okay. Allow, okay. It's closed, but it's not finished. Well, I mean, it's closed, but it's in beta. So this is fantastic that it's closed.
Yeah, no, I think actually, I think the reason is not that this is insufficient, but I think the reason is a concern about scaling. And I think that is a valid concern because let's say, a large customer enables this and it doesn't perform at all. I think that would not be great.
Yeah, well, we're going to raise a separate issue and we will have a chat on the issue. Okay, handle design uploads in the admin. So this is also front end. And he has split the work into separate backend and front end work.
Yes, we talked about that.
And this is, where is this in the life cycle of stuff at the moment?
I don't know. I haven't had the chance to look at it.
Okay, so it's on your list.
Yeah, I think actually, now that we're at it, can you just put them as ready for development?
You sure?
Yes. Yeah, because this is just the splitting up of the other thing, which was already ready for development.
Okay, so also put Geo active on it.
Yes.
Okay.
And the second issue as well.
And ready for development.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
All right.
And we had a quick discussion about this because I think Zach worked on it with, I think, Valerie.
Okay.
I can't quite remember. And they said, oh, actually, this is a relatively large issue. It has a size of 5. We can split it up into 2 things. And then they just asked for confirmation. I told them that that was the way to go.
Well, I'm glad that they did that they got ahead of it rather than getting started and realizing it was big. So that's great. Put unique constraint on that. Okay.
I think that was a small.
Yeah, just something that got missed on when it was done. So this can. Sorry, just keeping an eye on stuff outside. Done. Right, refresh. Well, that's a good chunk of work that got done.
Yeah.
Oh, why did I not do this one? And okay, let's try again.
Cool.
Okay, so blocked. Create HA upgrade documentation. I saw a message that, I see here that there was an upgrade done from 1 to 2.
Yes.
Does that mean that this is unblocked, or was this waiting on something else?
Well, the update was only partially successful.
Ah, okay.
We can talk about that.
We can talk about that separate, I think. Okay, so this stays blocked.
That stays blocked. I think we actually, I have to pick this up with Tone because the reason for the failure in the upgrade was not that the documentation that we're trying to write is wrong. So I think we need to make a decision, and I'll pick this up. If actually like the steps that we performed were all valid, right? But it failed for other reasons that has nothing to do with the documentation, and it failed kind of right at the end. So maybe it is still sort of valid as a hey, the documentation as we wrote it makes sense, but there are other issues. But I didn't have time to think about that yet.
Well, then, as a note for next time, maybe just having the summary at the end of this saying, we.
Oh, I think the summary is in the issue.
Is in the issue. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Then.
I think this is still in dev, so we can talk about that.
Okay. Well, let's not get distracted. So let's. Okay. In dev. Okay, so this is still in progress about this job artifacts business.
Yes.
Okay, Tone was going to follow this up.
Yeah, and I think he has in the above comment. He is.
Oh, I see, 3 days ago. That's one thing that the discussions find is a little weird, is you have to go back. Okay.
Yeah, the threads, right?
Okay, so he's gone back to the customer asking for more information.
Correct. I will follow up if this is actually what's happening, because I think the situation is a little bit odd, as in the queries are slower for the customer, and also I think one of the nodes does not actually sync any LFS objects, so it's something to follow up on.
Okay. Upgrade from 0 to 1 fails on the secondary. Oh, this is omnibus. Okay, so we're just tracking that, but that is Ian's taking a look. Okay. Minimize steps to run an upgrade without post-deployment migrations.
Yeah. If that happens, I will be very happy because it essentially gets rid of the skip post auto migration weird flag, post-deployment migration. So. Okay.
Well, Tone is on it. Okay. The shard worker. Gosh, this is still here. Okay. And okay, so I need to follow this up again because it's still not okay. I'm going to put this in the notes for this. Shard. Okay. Verification of this is in development. Okay. I thought there was some discussion around what we were doing. Update. I'm still working on it, trying to implement some ideas to make it extensible for new types from the plan. Oh, that's also the most challenging part is queuing the resources to verify. Okay, I need to do some reading on this because I'm keen to see what the...
I think we are in the same boat here because I also need to do some reading on it. But it's really good to see that this is being picked up and there's interest. Some information, I had a customer call last week, and the customer is trialing Geo in a pretty big installation with several HA installations. And they raise that not having sort of consistent verification is an issue for them.
Yeah.
Not say anything other than that I fully agree. And so I think this is a good thing that we are actually, tracking this. And I think, so, just from customer feedback, this is appreciated.
I very much agree. Okay, split the file registry into two. Okay. Okay. Well, it's been picked up and it's work in progress. So there's not really much to. I mean, for anyone watching, I will dig into all of these further after the call, but it doesn't look to be blocked. It seems like it's work in progress. I didn't see this in progress last week, so partial success. Okay, so this is the one we were talking about where we need to talk on the issue later as to what the next steps actually are here.
Yeah, so I think there are two things that we need to concern ourselves with. Essentially, from version 12.1 to 12.2, there is a minor update of the Postgres database from 9.6.7 or something to from 11 to 14. Yes, 9.6.11 to 11 to 14. That cannot be disabled by setting a please don't upgrade Postgres, because that only applies to major versions.
Yeah, okay.
And essentially, after upgrading the entire cluster and following the instructions, at the end you need to.
Who named that? Was that you?
That was me.
Okay.
So after going through the works, essentially the only thing that was missing was updated foreign data wrapper tables, which fails because the underlying Postgres database was updated. And so the library version that the foreign data wrapper rig task actually uses is different to what is running on the system. So it fails. And then when restarting Postgres on the secondary, that didn't resolve it. Restarting Postgres on the primary essentially sent the cluster into disarray. So quite concerning. So A, that needs to be followed up because I would like to understand what that actually means for Geo customers. And B, I think Tone and I need to make a determination if the instructions for this were not really the problem, right? So we can unblock the Geo upgrade instructions.
I think it also means that we need to figure out how to include this as part of the testing when this stuff is released with Omnibus, because that must mean that it was, obviously distribution is testing the Omnibus releases, but it must mean that they're not testing it in a geo-clustered environment.
Yes.
And we need to come to some agreement as to who is responsible for the testing and how to get it automated.
I think there is no way anymore that I don't know what they do, right? So that's maybe number one. So confirmation is the right thing to do. But going forward, I think all of those scenarios should be automatically tested because at the moment we're doing this manually, which is time intensive and in its own right, I think not the best time investment for humans. It could be automated, right? So that's really important. And also, the impact of minor Postgres upgrades and major Postgres updates in the future should be, I think, better understood for example, for Geo, right? Because we had a number of issues. And I've already seen that there is talk about upgrading Postgres again from 10 to 11, right? And then from 11 to 12. And I don't want to do this again.
No, but also this is a huge waste. I don't want to say waste of time, but it's a massive expense of time when we could be doing other things. And all of this stuff, we're doing it over and over and over again. So yes. We did have a target for ourselves to 50% automate this stuff. And for whatever reason, it's not happening, or for a number of different reasons.
There's not that target.
And if we need to think about how to help the test automation team do this, because we can't wait for it to just happen.
No, and I agree. And it's, for me personally, it's a very foundational thing that needs to work. And I have not as much confidence as I would like at the moment. So
okay, I've marked it to follow it up. We can continue the discussion on there. Okay, all right. Show the sync information for design repositories. I think Valerie had picked this up to be worked on the front end. And he was going to chat with Zach about it. Okay, that's fine. And this is the first one. I put the number on the front just because I was trying to order things. Ash has confirmed with Devin that that the code is the right place, and he said when I've chatted with him earlier that he was going to take a look at this week. Super. So fingers crossed he can get to that. Okay, so that's 9 things that are in development. Well, 8 things because the one thing is, I'm just going to drag this down to the bottom because it's sort of for interest. It's not active. Well, it's not active in Geo.
Yes.
Okay, so that concludes this portion of the scheduling call.
Cool.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Yeah. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so let's look at this. So I'm not 100% sure if Mike is already working on this or not. I would just make a question, if this is actually in development or not, because he assigned himself. Regardless, this is important to do because it has to. It's one of those issues in our epic here, which we haven't released for 12.4, but would like to release for 12.5. And so, in line with our sort of strategy discussion from last week, we want to go through all of those issues and actually make sure they happen so that we can close this off. So let me quickly make a note. But this is correct. This should happen. The next thing is for zero downtime upgrades, ask to refresh after post-deployment migrations. Yes, that's a small low-hanging fruit for the improvement of the multi-node HA instructions. So we should do this. We should, I think, in the meantime, essentially make it clear that we have to refresh these manually.
I'll just give me a sec. Sorry, I'm back.
Yeah. Thanks. This year definitely needs to happen. It is in the same order as what we discussed previously. This is the Postgres upgrade, a major upgrade on the Geo cluster. I just make a note. This is likely going to be Postgres version 9.6.14 because we've updated it to that version already. So we may need to update the issue description, but let's see. Expose an API for design repositories for Geo admin area. And then, oh yeah, these are the 2 issues we put into work ready for development, which are the finishing the front-end work for enabling synchronization of design repositories. So those are also correct, because if we I clearly have to reorder this a little bit. Yeah, so verification is ongoing from Valeri, showing the sync information is ongoing, and these here are probably the two things that Zach is going to pick up. So again, in line with our discussion from last week, we want to close this out, and so I'm happy with that.
Okay.
Okay, so this one here, yeah, is the upgrade path continuation. This is a little bit more work on the so the impact of upgrading a cluster for DR. So I think this is a quick documentation fix. Happy to do this. Okay. And then those two items here are already to do with the next steps for Geo on .com. So one is the server architecture diagram for Geo, which I think we should do. I think you've done, or maybe done something.
I think we can actually, I'll go over it again after the call, but I think that we can mark that one as done, because between Ash and Devon, they created one that does look like what we're currently thinking, but because we're still thinking about the difference between streaming and write-ahead log segment replays, that might change what the diagram looks like. So either we can mark this one as done, or I will move it all the way back. So I think let's just leave it in the open column there for now, and I'll check on it after.
Yeah. And document every step needed to replicate a new data type. I think that's still worth doing, especially if we're thinking about a potentially like better way, like a more frameworky approach for verification and replication. I think capturing the status quo is a nice next step. That being said,
if we are, I'm just thinking that if we're going to build a framework for it, do we spend time writing down how it works right now, or do we just build a new framework for it? Because who's the target audience of this documentation?
Well, so I think my point would be, I don't know how clear it is what we actually need to do right now in order to really accomplish this. And I always feel like capturing, clearly we're not happy with the status quo. So I think it may be worth, I don't think it needs to be in super detail, just to capture, this is the current state, right? So that we then actually can say, these are the particularly difficult bits in here. And this is why we're proposing a new thing. That makes it, at least for me, a little bit more
So then I think that this needs to be part of the epic that will be creating the new framework.
Yes, and I think I may need to move this here from add unreplicated data types. And this is sort of my job, I think, for this week, to create an epic on, the new verification and replication work, and then split this into a little bit more smaller items. Let me make a note. Or are you making a note already?
I'll make it actually read properly after the call. This is just taking notes now.
Okay, so I think we are pretty, there's clearly a lot going on right now. There's more to be picked up, and we still have a few open things, some of which may close.
So I think if we pull, we're going to have the next call on Friday.
Yeah.
There's also, there's nothing in review at the moment, which is different.
Yes. So I'm inclined to leave it at this, just because there's so much happening right now. And once they go in review, right,
there'll be review work to do.
There will be review work to do. And there's still enough to pick up also for Zach. And this year, for example, right, to keep people busy. And I think then I will use the week to sort of capture the verification and replication discussion and synthesize that information. Maybe we can even do that partially together so that we're on the same page.
Okay, yeah, I just need some time to go over the emails about it.
Same here.
Yeah.
And I think also, I believe most of those things here are scheduled. but I will need to make, like, I can do this after the call because I still would like this to be closed off, right? We discussed it last week. So I may, like, if one or two may not be in the scheduling phase yet, so I'll make sure that that actually happens, so we can close this off. And then the design repositories is the other thing that we definitely wanted to finish.
Yeah.
But I think that's perfectly on the way.
Okay.
So.
Okay, I'm happy with that.
I'm also happy with that. I think we also, if we go back to this, we actually accomplished two of the things we wanted to accomplish, right? We
choose the best node is done, and the object storage is done.
That's done. And this year actually moved forward, and I think we will see some movement, so that's good. The design uploads are also on the way, as discussed. So I think we're making good progress. And then the replication and verification framework is something to think about. Yeah, and we just need to make sure that we accelerate as best as we can on the geo.com front. That's maybe something for me to catch up with Ash, because I'm not sure if he needs help or if there's sort of parallelizable like work that can happen.
Oh, I was going to say that I think that we need to have someone else that is primarily focused on that work, either Douglas or Mike, I think, because of I'm just choosing them specifically because of the time difference. I think that Ash can then work on things and ping them across to them to pick up overnight, to ping back to Ash the following day. Yeah. But I think that having a pair of people work on those things will make it go faster.
Yes, and if we just quickly take a look at the epics and sort of the state of the roadmap. God, this is so slow. I had to cheat again a little bit with like displaying things. And I took inspiration from our build board. So I have active epic.
I like that, actually. Okay. I like that the epics have states now, because then you can easily see things. Yeah. And this looks really good.
Yeah, so essentially what I'm saying is this is happening, disaster recovery, the verify all replicated data. I think we probably have to rephrase this based on the framework work. We are hopefully going to close off the Geo upgrade documentation in 12.5, which is mainly the HA upgrade bits, more like the more robust foreign data table updates on the way. Object storage is mostly done. Design repositories are well on the way. We are going to start thinking about promotion, demotion, and failover, which is great. Then in November, December, I think with the new product designer starting, we have an opportunity to start reviewing the UI and UX on the administrator panels, which I think is still long and undefined process, but we'll have...
At least we'll have someone who can think about it.
Exactly.
Focused, yeah.
I postponed the installation efforts because I think this is bigger than Geo, and there is a lot of work I think that needs to happen on the distribution side of things as well. Yeah, I think this is kind of this year. And if we look at, I did this, which I think is kind of nice. I have a separate roadmap now for GeoDR. So
nice. Okay.
Very rough timelines, right? Add unreplicated data types is in here, but that makes not that much sense. But we're rolling it out to staging at the moment. It may take longer. I'll have to revisit this. We're defining the architecture. I hope that gets done in the next month. And then, we have to roll it out to DR. Let's see. This is super high level, but I thought it would be nice to at least have a view, and then we can update it based on our work.
No, I like having those views. That's really nice.
Yeah, cool. So I think this is the state of affairs. The last thing I wanted to say, I think this is actually also for me to review. I created these add unreplicated data types and verify all replicated data epics. And they were, I think, obviously sort of never ending and very large. And then they got broken down into smaller chunks of, what specific data type and, verify X, verify Y. And if we, I spoke about that with Gabriel, and it hasn't really worked out as well as I hoped, in the sense that, when I started, I thought, oh, we are not replicating those things, let's just replicate those things, right? And, oh, we are not verifying those, let's just verify them. But I think throughout sort of the attempting to do this work, I think it became clear that it's not as easy to do as we wanted it to be.
As we'd like, yeah.
And I think actually, even though we didn't accomplish what we set out to do, I think for me, this is sort of the point now where we have to take this learning and say like, hey, actually, this is really hard. And we're not really solving the root problem here. And maybe, rethinking how we do those things is actually the right thing to do. And
no, and that's why I'm glad that the conversations are starting now for how we move each of those items forward, because it's hard and cumbersome to do it. They're big, long, and it doesn't really feel like that they'll ever end. And it's nice to know that we can get started on how are we going to do this in the long run.
Yeah, and I think from a product perspective, I think there are also interesting sort of questions on, scalability for like GitLab in 2 or 3 years, right? And I think the recognition, or at least my view is sort of currently that the operating model of Geo doesn't scale. As in, we can't be the gatekeepers for adding new things. People are going to be able to add things much more quickly than we are going to be able to add them to Geo. And so,
and I think that the idea of having it that people can do it themselves is great. So like the self-service model. And there was even discussion with Gabriel again about having a self-service model for the backup restore as well.
Yeah.
So that's something we also need to start talking about at some point. But
and I think this is actually also interesting, that maybe that's complete bonkers, I don't know. If we offer sort of a more framework-like sort of self-servicing approach, we may be able to abstract a few of the details away from our end users, right? We essentially give them a thing that says, use it, right? And we will make sure things get replicated, right? And you don't need to concern yourself with it. And that's maybe also for the very long term, sort of in like 2 or 3 years, not a bad thing, because who knows, what technology GitLab is going to adopt at that point, right? And if we already have some API or sort of contract at the top level with users, we can maybe start changing the backend much more easily as well. And I think I have a slight feeling that may become important at some point. Right?
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
So, anyways.
Last thing for the scheduling call, there are 2 bugs that we need to assign severity to.
Should I open the bug board?
There's actually there's just one, because the one is in the Ansible GitLab Geo, so that doesn't really count. The other one is, let me just send you the link quickly in the chat here, because it's just one that we've got to do. So this is the fact that the word local is a qualification we no longer need, because we can use object storage. So I'm not sure that this is a bug.
I wouldn't say that's a bug.
No. Can I just take bug off?
Yes. It feels to me like a front-end improvement. Because like functionality, like for me, like the behavior is not necessarily incorrect. Right? It's just, I don't know.
Well, I'll put front end on there. We can figure out how it fits in with the UI UX stuff on the admin panel.
Yeah, I think that's also where it's already positioned, right?
Yeah. Great. Well, I think that covers everything for the scheduling call. I've started putting the notes in the discussion document into some kind of order. So I'll finish up with that and upload this recording. And this concludes our call.
Thank you. I think you can stop recording.
Okay. Right. I will stop recording.